Welcome back to the Mindful Hunter Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Jay Nichol. And my guest this week is Mr. Jake Downs, the absolute killer with a stickbow. I've known about this guy for quite some time. And to be honest, I'm just shocked we haven't actually crossed paths and, hung out or done a podcast. I'm surprised it took this long. He has some very strong opinions about the hunting industry and sponsorship and mindset. And we just align very closely on a lot of stuff. So yeah, not sure why it took so long to make this one happen, but super grateful that I was able to get it on the books and sit down and have a chat with him. It was a super fun conversation, and I think there's lots of little tidbits. So as usual, little bit of quick housekeeping. This podcast is brought to you by Forged In The Backcountry, a lifestyle apparel brand for backcountry hunters that I launched for dudes who wanted stylish, well-fitting, high-quality clothes they could wear when they were home, going out, just doing regular shit, not in the mountains, that still showcased, how deeply passionate they were about backcountry hunting. If you're interested in picking some up, forgedinthebackcountry.com. And also Mindful Reviews, the online subscription-based membership community I built from the ground up for like-minded individuals who love to nerd out on gear and got sick and tired of all the sponsored reviews. So if you like unbiased, non-sponsored gear reviews and you want to support what I do and see more of it, head on over to mindful-reviews.com and pick up a membership. Also, I believe, I think there is only one mule deer hunt left for this fall. So I will be guiding for Jeff Lander in southern Alberta, archery mule deer hunt the week of October 13th to 20th. If you are interested in getting in on this hunt, it's a very challenging hunt, but there are some big bucks out there. So it's one of these like high risk, high reward type hunts, not a gimme. So if you're not interested in an extremely challenging archery hunt, this one ain't for you. I want to be very clear about that up front. But it's an extremely rewarding hunt. I did this, I believe it was either 2019 or 2020. I went out there, had a blast, saw some great deer. If you're interested in that, shoot me a DM. Like I say, there's one space left. All right, without further ado, let's have a chat with Mr. Jake Downs. All right, folks, welcome back to the Mindful Hunter Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Jay Nichol, and we're sitting down with Jake Downs here today, and we're both kind of having a chuckle because it's a bit shocking that it took us this long to have this conversation because we share a lot of very strong opinions about some things in the hunting industry. So before we dive in, thank you for one of the things everyone is well aware of is how busy you are. So I appreciate you taking the time, man.
Yeah, no problem, dude. I appreciate you having me on.
One of the things that I would like to get into, like I'm deeply fascinated by mindset and like discipline and resolve. And I think for you to have had the success that you have had, and then to top it off, to do that with trad gear, I find deeply fascinating. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your early hunting life and how you got into hunting. And even more than that, like, is there anything that springs to mind? Like, what was your relationship with your old man? Like, why do you think it is you're as deeply obsessed as you are with success?
Yeah, so my dad I have the same story everybody has, or a lot of people do. I grew up hunting, grew up trapping. My dad was a big trapper. Like, we have a picture. My mom has a picture of me when I'm like 6 months old on my dad's trap line. And so my dad was very into hunting, trapping, fishing, so that's how we grew up. But what's kind of funny is over the years, as I got older, and me and my brothers, I have two brothers, and we were all in sports. We all did, all the sports and traveled and did a bunch of shit. And I don't know if that's what kind of broke my old man. Like, he just kind of, like, he still hunts and traps and fishes a little bit, but it's not as much as when I was a kid. It seemed like he kind of almost phased out of it as we got older. And I mean, I was obsessed with it when I was I was very into it when I was young. And then I went through a phase later, and by that I mean like really young, like up until like 10, it's all I wanted to do was hunt, fish, go do this and that. And then there was a point where I got into like middle school, high school, and then it turned into like girls and sports and that whole thing. And I kind of almost lost it for a little while. Got crazy fat. Oh yeah, dude, I was giant at one point in my life. Like I'm not a tall guy. I was 270 at one time in my life. And I say that because it's all a part of my story that what happened was, a bunch of life shit happened. Went to a college for a girl. Anyway, came back, was uber fat, didn't have a lot of direction in my life. And it's kind of crazy because I was my dad and one of my best friends and his dad all went on a hunt together.
Okay.
And it was like that moment. It was a elk hunt. I wasn't even hunting. It was my buddy Levi's dad who had the tag. But it was like at that moment we were hunting and we were in the mountains and I just was like, holy shit. Like I remember why I'm supposed to, like, this is my life. And legitimately started at that point, lost a fuckload of weight. And I, honest to God, did it so I could go elk hunting the next year. I lost like 80 pounds. It was crazy. So, it wasn't like I didn't hunt in high school, but I don't, from like probably from like 14 or 15 to 18, 19 years old, there was a point in my life where it wasn't a big like focus. Like when I was younger, it was a focus. And then now it's all I fucking focus on. So it's just kind of, I probably still hunted and trapped and fished more than most people, but that little section of my life, I was kind of like normal people. Like I didn't go out. So you were talking about mindset. It's funny because I've always kind of known that I wanted to own my own business. I wanted to be my own boss since I was this big. I've had a mowing company. I've had a card shop. I've done a bunch of entrepreneur shit, if you will. But that was kind of always my goal, and I didn't know why I wanted that. And then hunting, when I got kind of back into it, it became like this giant focus of mine. And it's just kind of funny how everything kind of fell into place because without being my own boss, I couldn't do what I do. That's
Right.
It's just kind of funny because it was never a plan to start my own business and be able to hunt as much as I do and kind of lay out my work so it worked out for hunting seasons. I mean, all that kind of stuff just came later, but it's almost like it was meant to happen. It sounds kind of corny, but you know what I mean? It's, but I think your mindset, my mindset is, it's funny. I talk about mindset. Like right now, I feel like the biggest pussy in the world. Like today was the hardest day I've had in a long time. Running was tough. Everything just seemed tough today. But I don't know. My mind, I don't think I have a very, my wife says I have a very strong mind. Like I'm very disciplined and stuff. And I'm like, I am the worst because if I say today, hey, I'm not dieting today, I'll go eat 10,000 calories right now. I'll do it right now on camera, but
I'll join you. I'm the same way. Sunday was my, like I'm a pretty old school bodybuilder type guy, so I still enjoy the odd cheat day. And
absolutely.
yeah, Sunday I went pretty deep. I think you've raised an interesting question here though, because I think I fall into the exact same boat. Like when I tell people I'm being lazy or, I still feel like I could push so much harder. Like I do think that is a hallmark of deeply driven people, is that none of us feel like we're as close to success as we should be. Or and I think that's I think if because I think if we did feel like we were pushing as hard as we could, we wouldn't keep pushing. And
Yeah.
so it's almost like I wish that voice would shut up sometimes, but then I'm like, I'd rather feel like I'm a lazy piece of shit subjectively, but
Yeah.
be a super productive, successful person objectively. Like, even though those two things, there's this like dissonance between the way I see myself and the way other people see me, I do think that's part of what keeps us moving, because if we felt like we were okay, I think we would become complacent to a degree.
See, I need you on every podcast because my big mouth diarrhea that I had, it summed up what I was trying to say. My mindset is that, like, what you just said is exactly what I was trying to say. You just have to. For me, my mindset is I am a very driven person, but I don't feel like I am. You know what I mean? Like with business or with hunting, it's all the same. You know, I'm very, I want to win, but
Yeah.
I don't look at myself as like a very crazy competitive winner. Does that make sense?
100%, man. I look at my brother as an example, because me and my brother are very different people. And he's not, he's a little out of shape, and he works his 9 to 5, and he likes his video games, and he's got an okay life. And I'm always like, why aren't you working for more? Like, how come this is okay for you? But then when I look at the guy, I'm like, he feels pretty okay about himself. Like, I don't think he has the nights that I do. I don't think he like beats the shit out of himself when he's at the gym like I do, so that the voice is like, and I always try and put that into perspective. Like, there's a price to be paid, and some people just feel okay. But I also think, those people that feel just okay, it's that, another analogy I like to give. I went through a brief spell where I competed in jiu-jitsu, and for the first little bit, I would get crazy nervous before jiu-jitsu matches. And then one day, it was in the later end of the tournament, I wasn't nervous at all. I was like, oh, I'm just going to smoke this dude. I walked in and I got choked out in like 30 seconds. And like this light bulb went off. I'm like, oh, you need the nerves. Like, that's what makes you feel alive. Like, that's where my focus and my drive, like, I needed that nervous energy so that I was 100% focused on the task at hand. And that's kind of how I feel about that sense of like failure, or that sense of like, I'm not good enough. Part of me is scared to get rid of it, because maybe I just won't give a shit, or I'll just accept being, mediocre if that voice goes away.
No, I agree, man. It's the days that tell me that I'm still on track are the days like today, where I didn't want to fucking do any of what I had to do. I didn't want to get up. And I know it's funny because everybody talks about that. I mean, that's the freaking douchefluencer fucking read, oh, I didn't want to work out today, but I did, that. But of late, I don't have that super big drive, and I don't know what it is. If I don't, I don't have a big giant. I mean, I got a lot of good hunts coming up, but I don't have anything like crazy right now, like a sheep hunt or something I'm training for.
Yeah.
So like getting up and working out has been really tough. Getting in the cold plunge has been like, I feel like a complete pussy.
Yeah.
And it's fucking, I don't know. It's 100% mindset. My wife and I have been talking about this. It's crazy. When you go for a run, are you a runner at all?
I'm not. I blew out my knee. I've gone through a spell though, so I can relate to like catching your stride and like a couple of the runner analogies, but I don't tend to run.
Well, it's anything you do that's hard. It's like you'll go out and you'll run. Like I'll go out and run 5 miles or whatever, even longer, and it feels great. You feel good. You run at a good pace, and then like this morning, I ran the first fucking hill. Literally 500 yards from my house, and I just was gassed.
Yeah.
I was just, the whole thing was brutal. I walked a few times, and I'm like, what is going on? Same with like sauna, cold plunge, anything the sauna's not hard. The cold plunge is fucking the most brutal thing I do. I hate it. It's the worst part of my day.
Now, is part of why you do that just because it fucking sucks?
It
Because
does.
I go back and forth on the whole cold plunge thing. I've read all the research. I'm a little bit over everybody posting about it, but
Yes.
as I'm sure you are as well. But then I keep coming back to the fact that I think there's merit to just doing shitty stuff sometimes.
I'll tell you right now. Okay, I'll tell you right now. As far as the cold plunge goes, it is the one thing that I do that's not cardio or not lift. You know what I mean? Not exercise, because exercise is the one thing you do that you can tell the difference. You can
Yep.
feel it.
You get
But
better.
but
Yeah.
supplements, sauna, all the health fucking things that are out there. You know, the bougie stuff. Cold plunge is the one thing that I actually can feel a difference. And it's the one thing that I hate doing the most. And I think there's merit to that also. But I think there's actually the health benefits, because it does, you know, they say it gives you a dopamine hit at the end.
Yeah.
When you get out, you feel it. Like, you feel fucking great when you get out. And I do think it boosts your immune system. Ever since I did it, I've been pretty good at not getting sick. Of course, you know, if you're working out and you're doing all this, who knows what's actually working?
Sure.
But I know it gets your metabolism going, because as soon as I get out, my stomach's just rolling.
Right.
So, I mean, I think there is health benefits, but I also think that just doing that one thing that you literally dread, like, it's like, fuck, can I just talk myself out of doing this? To be honest, 100% honest, I would rather run 5 miles than get in a cold plunge for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
That's stupid.
I hate cold water. I still don't do it. I hate cold water. And I don't mind cold. I do winter go, like, it's something about water. Like, I've done winter goat hunts, minus 15 degrees Fahrenheit, 7 days straight, solo in the mountains. Love it. It's like going on a vacation for me. As soon as you talk cold water, fuck off. Which is probably why I got to do it, because
you should try it, because I think you would. Well, I know you would, because you seem like the same mindset as I am. Like, I think you would do it. I'm not kidding you. The first time I got in it, I got out. I put my feet in. I was like, oh, fuck this. I can't get out. And I had already told people that I was going to do it. And then I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, that was a mistake. Like, I got in a couple different times and couldn't get all the way in. It was the hardest thing. And what's funny is that was over a year ago. And I feel now like I'm back to that stage. Like, I can't, it sucks so much. But I mean, that's what they say. You should do something every day that, or not every, you know, I don't know how many times a week they say, whatever, 4 or 5 times a week, you should do something that you truly don't want to do. Because I don't like to run, but it's not like some days I do dread it, but most days I'm just like, oh, it's whatever. You know, it's just a run. You know, I don't have to, but I
remember hearing, and I think everybody goes a little bit over the top with Huberman, but he said something particularly interesting I caught the other day in a reel, where there's a different part of your brain that gets activated by doing things you actively don't want to do. Yeah. And it's like, I like going to the gym. I get it. Everybody else thinks it's tough. It's hard. It's physically demanding. I got to stay focused and I got to kind of push myself. But like, I love it. Even on a shitty day, I love it. And I'm like, I get it. There's a part of me that's not, you know, having to exert the same will and dig into the same place neurologically to force myself to do that as something like a cold plunge or something else that falls into that category. And he shared some science as to why that's important and stuff. But I immediately thought of cold plunging when he talked about that, because that is something that I would like actively go out of my way to avoid. Like, I don't want nothing to do with it.
100%, man. Like, there are days I try to talk myself out of doing it every day, and that's not a joke. Like, what I do is I go for a run, and then I do sauna. I sauna for 30 minutes, and then I come in and I take a cold shower to get all the sweat off me, so my cold plunge isn't just nasty.
Yeah.
And even crawl in that. So you crawl in that shower, and you know, taking cold showers, that's good for you. Great. I truly think if that's what you have available, do it. But when you get a cold plunge, you realize that your fucking cold shower is nothing, because I fill my cold plunge up with my hose out of my house. So it's the same water that I'm taking a cold shower with. And it's like 50 degrees, 48 degrees. I'm like, well, and then you're cooling it down to 33. It's like, Jesus. But getting into the cold shower is brutal. It
Yeah.
sucks. And then you're like, oh my God, now I have to clean myself and go get in this. I shouldn't have done that much time on cold plunge, but dude, I'm telling you, it's the worst fucking thing you'll ever do.
No,
And
I think it's important because people are always asking me about grit and determination and stuff. And it's like, it's all rooted in your ability to make yourself do shit you don't want to do. And I think when you're able to stack up those little wins, it's like mental proof to yourself that you're capable of it. So then when it comes to working an extra hour or going over the next ridge to look for an elk or something that really does have the opportunity to create more success in your life, it just seems easier. Like it doesn't seem as difficult because you've already stacked up all this evidence that you're capable. Like you now have that mental narrative that you're the type of man that can make yourself do shit you don't want to do. And I think by building up that undeniable evidence that's who you are, it translates to work, it translates to hunting, translates to obligations that we fulfill with our family. Like there's this big overflow effect, and it all comes from little shit like that. I got this weird thing right now. I'm shooting 12, I let myself watch an hour of TV before bed every night. And I try and practice more than this, but I always make myself go in the hall and shoot 12 arrows before I sit down to watch. And it seems like the stupidest little thing, but there's even days where I'll try and talk myself out of that. And then I use that as an argument. Like, this isn't about the arrows. It's about, I made a commitment to myself that I was going to do something every day. So whether or not I need to do it, I need to fulfill that commitment that I made to myself. Because if I break this commitment, I'm going to start breaking all the other commitments that I've made.
I love that you said that, because I do the same thing. Like, I shoot my bow every day, and I love to shoot my bow.
Yeah.
But there are days where I'm just like, I don't want to shoot my bow today. I just don't. Like, and I go out there and I fucking shoot, and it almost is at the end, I'm like, all right, I'm glad I did that. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's such a simple thing. And but you and I have been shooting for so long. I mean, I think some people are just now kind of getting into it, and it's different when you've been shooting your whole life.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, anything like that anything that is a chore is something that is something you just have to do. Like, even though, you don't have to, it's not going to ruin anything, not shooting or not doing the dishes or not taking out the trash or not doing, any of the chores that are what you need to do. Maybe not working out for a day. Yeah, it's not going to kill you, but you just got to do those things no matter how hard or how easy they are. And it's amazing how often those little things can be, your mind's always trying to fuck with you.
Always. This is what I wish more people understood this. Like, your mind is not your best friend. It does not have your interests at heart. And I feel like the secret to life is figuring out ways to make yourself do shit that you're constantly trying to talk yourself out of doing. Like, I have to drink a liter of water with electrolytes between my first and second cup of coffee because my caffeine addicted ass, I finished my first cup of coffee. I just want a second cup of coffee. Like, I just want more coffee. My rule is you have to drink that liter. And normally that means I'll get invested in a work task. And like, it means 2 or 3 hours goes by and it saves me from smashing a liter of coffee in the first 90 minutes I'm awake, and it'll spread it out between noon. That's not my plan. But because I force myself to like drink that liter of water, but there's nothing in my mind that wants to drink that. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. I just give me another nice hot cup of coffee. You know what I mean? But yeah, your mind is not your best friend. And I talk about this with solo hunting a lot. Because everybody's like, what's the tent? What's the boots? What's the jacket? It's like, fuck it all. Your boots are not sending you home. Your tent is not sending you home. your fucking mind is what is going to send you home. You're going to start thinking to yourself, my wife misses me. I'm not living up to my commitments. My kid's at home alone. Bullshit. You don't want to be there. And your mind is fucking with you to give you an out that you can live with. And like, I think that's what all hard parts of hunting are like, is being able to like push that voice that seems like it gives a shit about you out of your head so that you can stay focused on the task at hand.
Yeah, dude. It's I truly like, it's so funny to hear everybody talk about, like, I don't know. I and maybe you can speak to this a little bit. I have hunted a lot, and I hunt a lot of days a year, probably more than I should. And like, it is, I still get those feelings. And my whole goddamn message, like, everybody's like, oh, I mean, honestly, everybody was thinking Earn Your Hunt was this workout thing, and prepping your gear. It has nothing to do with that. That's just part of life. Like, yes, I do that, and I promote that, and people, I've had people tell me that they've lost a bunch of weight because they follow me. That's cool. Like, I enjoy that. Like, I'm just sharing it because whatever. I'm a fucking douchefluencer. I'm a fucking tell you that I'm working out. Like, but it all stems. Earn Your Hunt has more to do with, first, your family, because that's the first thing that's going to send you up the mountain. If you have anything, if your wife is unhappy with you, and my wife just walked in, I don't know, she's listening to me rant over here, but if she's unhappy, she's at home with the kids. She's fucking working, and you're sitting on the mountain. Maybe you just fucked up your, first opportunity in 6 days or whatever, and you're like, you're already as low as you can be on the mountain. And then you start thinking, oh, my wife is we left kind of on bad terms, and I didn't pay that one bill, and fuck, my kids are, kind of being a pain in the ass right now. I'm not going to kill it. I'm just going to go home. Like, you have to have your shit together, because no matter what, your mind's going to fuck with you. It's going to say, oh, you're being a bad husband. It's going to guilt trip the fuck out of you because it wants to go home. It wants to be comfortable. So the more you can earn that hunt and have everything, take your wife and kids on a vacation before you leave, or do some extra shit with the, I try to, before I leave, I try to, do extra shit, like take the garbage out and feed the dogs, like do some stuff that helps her for at least a day or so ahead of time. Like, you should do that anyway, but that is something you can do that was my whole point. And same with work. Work's the same thing. If you're working on a job and you probably shouldn't have left, 100%, 2 days in, you're going to get an email. Maybe you don't have service or whatever, or you're just going to start thinking about, oh, fuck. If I don't go back, this is going to be a mess when I get back. The guy, so-and-so is going to be mad about this not being done. We're not going to get done on time. The business is going to go on. Like, your mind is going to. So that is what Earn Your Hunt is all about. It's all about taking care of shit now, so that when you're hunting, you're going to be guilt ridden no matter what. But so you're not just full of guilt and that's all you're thinking about. I mean, the more you can dumb that down, the better off you're going to be. And
I also think it's the same thing with like the cold plunging and the doing shit you don't want. It's about creating an environment where the rational mind can overrule the irrational mind.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you've done everything within your power to clean up your house and clean up your job and clean up your bills, then when the irrational mind kicks in and starts to guilt trip you, you can say, no, fuck you, buddy. I know I did what I was supposed to do. They're going to be fine. I'm texting with the wife. I remember it was 2019. I drew a premium elk tag in New Mexico. I'd been trying to kill an elk with my bow for 5 years unsuccessfully, 7 unsuccessful hunts. And we were at my in-laws, and I was leaving the next day. It was a 36-hour drive from Vancouver to New Mexico. And it was like 2:00 in the afternoon, and I was freaking about my bow being sighted in. And I left my wife and my kid at my mother-in-law's for 3 hours while I drove to the archery range the day before I left to shoot my bow. And I can remember driving down to New Mexico the next day, and I was like, never again. I
Well,
don't give a fuck. I don't care if my bow fucking breaks. You're an asshole. Your bow was fine. Like, you lost the mental battle that day. And it was like, ever since then, and it was like I already kind of knew this before then, but like I block out time. I take my kid out for dinner. I make sure you got to do that little shit to make sure. And it's like, I don't care what kind of crazy shit my wife might say the day or two before I leave. I don't get in a fight. I suck it up because it's like you gotta leave with that clear mind, because I think it's so important so that you can focus on the task at hand once you get out there.
oh,
I didn't
absolutely.
even know that's what, like, I understood that it was a little bit deeper than just like saving up cash, but I like that kind of double meaning of the earn your hunt, because I think that plays into then when you're out there, you earned it. Like, this is for me because I did what I was supposed to do, and this is mine now.
That's exactly what it is. Like, it honestly, it doesn't have anything to do with the money part of it. I mean, yeah, you have to be successful. You have to be able, like, you can't fucking go on hunts. Well, I do. I spend way more money than I should, but I know that I have a nest egg. Like, I have things
Yeah.
figured out. I wasn't doing the hunts that I am now. I'm spending way more money now, but that's because I paid everything off. I fucking earned it. Like, you get a little older, you get a little more financially sound, you can do more shit like that. Like, that's it. It 100% is about taking care of what you need to take care of before it's hunting season, or even during hunting season. When you're back, be back. And then, that it's, I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's,
I think I think I like that point as well, and I want to dig into that because obviously, you like me get a whole lot of must be nice type of comments. Like, I spend a lot of days in the field, and I try and it's like I'm not wired to be jealous. Like, I look at a guy like you, I get inspired. I'm like, that is phenomenal. What can I do to be more like that? And for some reason, other people see people doing well, and it's like they take it the other way and they get mad at the guy, and they feel shitty about themselves. And I don't really understand how that is. But there's some young dudes that listen to the podcast, and I'm like, you got to understand, I'm 45 years old. Like, I have been in the workforce for going on 3 decades. Do you know what I mean? Like, there have been times at my life where I worked 75 hours a week and I hunted 8 days a year because that's where I was. I was building a business. I was having a young kid. I had a new marriage. We just bought a house. I was doing my MBA, like but it was like that delayed gratification. Like, I knew if I took those years and built what I needed to build. And I'm not one of those guys who's like work for the weekend. I do think you need to figure out a way where you're enjoying your life. Like, I was lucky that I had a career that I enjoyed, but it was like, you said it earlier on with knowing you wanted to work for yourself. Like, if hunting is something that's truly important to you, and I don't mean that you like the story of being a hunter. I mean, like, you actually like hunting. And I know I only feel a certain way when I'm out in the mountains, and I need that in my life or I go crazy. You need to figure out a way to facilitate creating a lifestyle that's going to support that. That has to do with who you choose as a partner. Like, I see these dudes marrying these like young hot chicks with nothing, like no goals, no ambitions, no career. It was like, I was real, like, we didn't get married until we were 37, but like, I was hyper. We had my kid when I was 37. We actually met when we were 35. But anyways, when I looked at my wife, it was like, I'm looking for a partner because I want to build something. And I needed her to be smart and ambitious and focused on work while still recognizing that family was important. And, when I took jobs, they had to provide a certain amount of financial compensation so that I could build towards the future. And I feel like in this whole instant gratification world we're living in right now, like people look at you and me who have, lots of hunts on the calendar and doing tons of, and they're like, I want to do that. And it's like, well, you need to go back and look what happened 10, 7, 5 years ago in order to create this environment that we're able to exist in right now. And that's that same earn it, do the work now. That was the other thing that's really been tripping me out since I hit my mid 40s. The time horizon that I think about things in has almost like gone up an order of magnitude. Like where I used to think about where can my business be in a year, I'm literally thinking about where it's going to be 10 years from now. Yeah. If I want to, think about something for a month, I'm thinking about it 10 months out. Like I wish I could have learned that earlier on in life. It's like the ability to be consistent over extremely long periods of time seems to be what separates like hyper successful people from like people that are just getting by. Like I used to always be looking for the hack or the quick fix, or I thought I could like be clever and outsmart everybody. And it's like, there's none of that shit, man. It's like the people who win are the people who can be insanely consistent over extremely long periods of time.
Yeah, dude. There's a big. I mean, I don't know what you call it, but I'm a fucking planner. Like I know what I'm doing, at least hunt wise and work wise, for like the next 2 years. Like right. I am and I have like goals of these milestone goals, like before I'm 40, I want to try to get to this, and some people actually look down on some of these like, like slams and different things that are out there they're just fucking goals. Like,
yeah.
I'm not hunting just because I want to achieve this goal. It's just something to work towards. I'm hunting because I love to hunt, but that's just something to work, towards whatever. And what you said about the woman you marry, like I've said that a million times. The woman you marry will dictate your life.
Yep.
100%.
It might be the most important decision you ever make.
I think it is. I honestly think it is. And it's, I think my wife's gone now, so I'm not even getting fucking brownie points for this. But because
I'll clip it and send it to her.
That's right. So it is one of the biggest decisions, and it's one of the ones that guys fuck up probably more than anything, because the crazy ones that are good in bed and just psychos are the ones that you want, like you just can't get away from. Like I've had a couple of them. My brother's had a couple of them. I mean, who hasn't, But I was just lucky that my wife, basically just, it just worked out. Like I was terrible at getting women. So it just worked out in my favor. But young kids, you got to watch that shit, because you got to think with your upstairs brain. Like it can really fuck you. What I always say is when I was younger, and I didn't do this on purpose, but I say it so that maybe somebody can. Like I would come to a crossroads, and maybe people are sick of me saying this, but I would come to a crossroads, and there would be like, and that's super cliche, but I would come to a spot where there's like two directions in life to go. Like a job over here, a job over here, or even like school over here, a job over here, whatever. And I would always kind of almost go towards the one that led me more towards hunting, if that makes sense. Like I didn't realize that I was doing it until later. There was a point in my life where I went to work for a company, an electrical company, and I would take 3 months off in the winter to trap. Some companies wouldn't allow that,
right?
But in my field, and I didn't do this on purpose, it worked out in my favor. But, I went to work for a smaller electrical company who got kind of slow in the winter. And so when I asked him, I was like, man, would you mind if I took a month or two off to trap? He's like, fucking A, like you're saving me money. Just come back in the spring when we're busy. So like, that was like the first time I was like, holy shit, like this. I didn't think he'd say yes. I really didn't. I was like, oh, okay. I was terrified to ask him. Um, but there are spots in your life where you're going to have two directions to go, and you know the one that you need to go down. And what you said is spot on. Because if you like the idea of hunting, you're not a hunter. And there's a lot of people that like the idea of hunting, and we need those people too.
Yep.
Backpack companies need their money as well. We need the leg humpers, whatever. But if it is truly your passion, and deep down it's your passion, you'll know, and it may not be the best direction to go, or it may not seem like the best direction to go. I mean, it may be a hands-on job instead of going to this college that you're gonna. I'm not advocating for people not going to college. I'm just saying you got to know what you really want. And for me, that was kind of where I was at. I was at, keep going to college or go do something that be in construction like I've been in my whole life. And I'm fucking so glad that that's what I did, because, everybody says, oh, go to college and you'll get a good job. Fuck, I have the best job in the world. I love my job. I mean, I hate it some days, it sucks, you're sweating, you're whatever. But at the end of the day, I take satisfaction out of my job. I have a couple of good employees that I enjoy managing. I'm a manager. I'm a planner. I like to manage projects, and I like to see progress. So, I mean, there will be, if younger people are listening, that is a very good thing to kind of look for and start kind of almost paying attention to, because I just lucked into it. So yeah, I mean, that's something to.
No, I think I've said it multiple times. I do have multiple degrees, one of them a master's. And I always joke around and said, if I was going to do the whole thing over again, in all seriousness, I would have done an engineering degree with the first degree. I went to university the first time as like a recovering junkie. I didn't even know what a fucking engineer was. I was surprised they let me in the door. But if I had known that, because that really satisfies the combination of like, real world problems with like math and stuff that I find interesting. But to be completely honest, I just would have went and got a good trade, because if you think about like how much money you can make in trades these days and the amount of control you can have, once you get your ticket and once you establish yourself with a certain reputation, you can do anything you want, man. You will find guys who will let you work 6 months a year. You will be able to go be a subcontractor and work your schedule, especially with like building. Like, there's nothing special about September in the trades. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can find a way, and I think it's one of the best. And you can be up in six figures these days, no problem. Like, you're not going to be, maybe you're not going to make $1 million and be rich. Maybe if you want to really lean into growing your own business, that is certainly an avenue that's on the table. But I think, if I was to do it all over again, and my thing was I got into forestry, and forestry kind of pays like shit. But what it did give me, I spent 15 years of my life, the last 5 I was in the office, but let's say the first 10 hours a day out in the field, in the mountains, in British Columbia. Like, I was getting dropped off by helicopters and living on barges and doing some of the coolest shit known to man. Yeah, I was only making $20 an hour, but I was living a life that I actually loved. And the funny thing was, what that taught me when I later got into backcountry hunting made going into the mountains like a joke. Like, everybody else was all scared. I'm like, this is just a day of work, man. We're just normally, this is easy. But I do think one of the big kicks I've been on lately, when I first started the channel and sharing information, I've always wanted to help people be more successful. And I was trying to do that through like, the other thing people get confused about the channel is I'm not trying to get you to buy more gear. That's the last thing I'm trying to get you to do. I'm trying to get you to buy the right piece of gear quicker. I had to buy 3 pairs of boots before I found the right pairs of boots. I had to buy 4 backpacks before I got the right backpack. Let's get you into the right piece of gear the first time, and so you're not wasting all that money. But I've realized now the lowest hanging piece of fruit to create more success for hunting in everyone's life is more time. You should be asking yourself, how can I add one more day to my calendar this year. If that means not buying a pair of boots and taking an extra day off, instead of asking for a raise, ask for another week's vacation time. Like if you're serious about, you're that guy, you know, and I like Cody Rich has like the 101 and the 201 thing. I think there's value in that. But if you're the guy who's like successful every 3 to 5 years, has 1 10-day hunt a year, but you love this and you want to be the guy who's successful every year and starts having multiple, 10-day hunts a year, the single most important thing in your life should be, how can I put more days on the calendar? Everything else should come after that. How can you work weekends? How can you save more? What gear can you not buy this year? What spots are you able to hunt closer to home so you can take Fridays off and get early season hunts in? Like whatever. That I have realized is actually the single most important thing that you need to be. And that's where I think the true value comes in the things that we've been discussing, because the more focused you can be, the more money you can make, the more money you're going to have, the more freedom you're going to take, the more time you can spend in the mountains. But I think, and that even goes with fitness. Like I think, you're probably spending too much time in the gym. If you can get away with 3 days in the gym and spend those extra 3 hours doing a side job on the weekend and making $150 so you can take another half day off in September, like that's where I would encourage people's minds to be if they're trying to like get into that next level of success from wherever they are now.
Absolutely. There's, like you said, there's literally no substitute for experience. You can't get it from listening to podcasts. You can't get it from buying gear. And everybody says the same shit as they're fucking trying to sell people more gear. You know what I mean? And I'm a gear junkie. Like I'm a psycho.
Same. I love it.
I spend a fucking immense amount of money on gear. And I'm always talking about the new trinkets and shit. Like I get it. Like I'm right there with you. But I also hunt 150 days a year. Like I get to be in the field a lot. So it's, if that wasn't an option, if gear was the reason that I couldn't hunt as much as I do, I'd go to Walmart and buy the cheapest shit I could find. So yeah, that's a gold nugget that people need to, and eventually that's the thing. That's like how it was with me and you. I mean, we didn't start out with the best gear or whatever. No. Like that's the biggest thing is these young kids come into the space and they're like, oh, I need this, I need that, I need this. You don't have any fucking money. Like I started out with my dad's, shit and some old, Salvation Army fucking wool pants that itched like a mother, yep. we just used, and that's what I thought hunting was, and so I grew up not poor, but I mean, I grew up with just the bare necessities and you just go hunting. And my dad is still like, he won't spend a fucking dime. Like if he could line up 2 deer and shoot them both with 1 bullet and get his meat, like that's what he wants to do. He's a subsistent. He loves the idea of fucking like shooting something. He like brags about how easy he can make it. Right. I shot off the porch and I got in my gator and I drove over to my tractor. I went out and got it. I'm like, fuck, but he's got the same meat that the guy that backpacked into the backcountry, for 7 days, so it's all about what you want from the experience. But if you're losing out on hunting time because you got to have the new bow or the new whatever, like it's a no-brainer. Everybody says it, but not too many people follow. You know what I mean? Like
and I think it's hard because it doesn't feel good. And I was kind of thinking about this the other day. People do the things that make them feel like they're working and going to be more successful instead of the things that actually contribute to them being more successful. So when I got back into hunting later on as an adult, I had money. And so I did go kind of nuts on the gear, and I had the best glass and I had the best apparel and I had the best tents. And I realized, this isn't making me any more successful. Like for 99%, and listen, we could get into optics and some of my strong feelings about shitty optics company. But for 90% of people on the planet, it ain't going to matter that much if you've got a Swaro or a Vortex, if you're only hunting 8 days out of the year. But when we spent, I think it's like mental masturbation. It's like, you feel like if I watch 18 videos on YouTube about this purchase and then go save up the money and buy this Swaro, that like I've done what I'm supposed to do to become a better hunter. And I think to not spend that money and instead use it to have an extra 3 or 4 days off so you can have a longer season doesn't feel as good in the moment. But it's like, I think one of the big things I'm trying to figure out in life, it is like differentiate those things that actually lead to more success from those things that just feel like they're going to lead to more success.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's hard to make that distinction, and it's the instant gratification, and we're all obsessed with it. I'm obsessed with it. Fuck.
Yeah.
Like it's way more gratifying to go to the store and buy, a piece of gear and look at it and play with it, and in your mind you're thinking about all the big bucks you're going to find, and it's, you're already on the mountain, you're hunting, and then you get there, and glass is one of those that will be like, you have to buy the best glass you can buy. That I'm 100% advocate of that, but not to detriment of the amount of time, because that extra couple of days, let's say you get an extra 5 days or a new Swaro spotting scope. Okay, you've already got pretty good binoculars. Fuck the spotting scope. You got 5 more days, and if you do that for a couple years, you've got 20 days of hunting experience. That's going to kill more animals, because I don't care if you go out and you, on the first day, you find an animal, that's great, but you have no fucking idea what that animal's doing, why he's doing it, or how to get to him. I mean, you have some ideas, so that glass is not going to help you, but it's instant gratification, and I'm right there with them, but if somebody said, hey, we're going to take all your gear away, we're going to give you the cheapest shit possible, you can hunt every single day of the year, you're going to make the same amount of money that you make right now, you just go hunting, we're going to give you this garbage, I'd probably do it. And this is going to sound arrogant, but I would probably have as much success as I do, maybe more, because I'm spending every day with the animals. I'm spending every day, in the field. Like, the more time you're in the field, just the more, obviously, you're just going to be that much better.
Yeah. I 100% crossed a line, and this is why, as of January, my full-time gig is hunting now, closed my consulting company. And I think it really happened about 2-3 years ago, like right in my early 40s. I was pretty focused on like a certain number in the bank. And I thought if I hit a certain number, then like I would feel okay and everything would be all right. And then I realized the whole reason I'm trying to get to that number is because I think then I'm going to be able to spend as many days in the field as I want. Mm-hmm. And I realized if I take away the proxy goal of the money, the real goal is to spend as many days out in the field as humanly possible, like within reason. I love my family. I'm not looking to be out there 350, but I mean, within reason. And I know I can be a bit of a bear to live with sometimes because I get pretty driven and focused. But I try and instill that in my daughter as well. Like, sometimes you're going to have to sacrifice things, and that's what family is also there for. Like, we love each other, and sometimes mom's going to take a hit because dad needs to do something, and sometimes dad takes a hit because mom needs to go do something. But I realized that what made me happy was more days in the field. And it was like the next day I woke up and said, every day from here on out is about trying to engineer my life, which meant making like, my burn rate, like how much money am I going through a month? Like how much money do I actually need to live? Like, it meant bringing that number down. Like, oh, if I spend less on this and this, then I can actually have more to spend on this and this. And it was just about engineering my life so that I could spend as many days in the field as possible. And now I'm here, and yeah, I don't make as much money. I probably make half as much money as I did 2 years ago. I'm also at a place in my life from some smart decisions that's okay. Like
Yeah.
retirement's all done. Like we're good. But it was like reorganizing those priorities and getting to do the stuff that I really wanted to do. And I like, yeah, it's kind of a trip now. I can't even believe that I get to spend as much time doing what I love. But I think the other thing on the final note is like people look at the big guys who are like super successful, like the Remys and the Lampers, and like, do you have any fucking idea how many days those guys spend on hunts compared to how many days you see them actually spend on hunts? Like those guys will go in for 16, 17, 18 days. They will go in, they will come back out, they will go back in. You see one animal die. They spend as many days chasing that animals as 3 years of elk hunting for you. And so it's like, if you want to start seeing success like that, you got to start putting in numbers like that. Like it's just the only way.
100%.
Okay, I want to dig into the trad thing a little bit because I find it fascinating. I'm a pretty diehard bow hunter, so I understand the argument because I live in BC. Bow hunting is not big in British Columbia. We have almost no incentives in our seasons. Anything you can do here with a bow, you can do with a gun. We have one September 1st to September 9th. We have an elk and deer archery season. It's like, oh, thanks, bud. Like so what? And then there's a whitetail season for the first 2 weeks of December in a couple regions, which is actually pretty sweet because the whitetail are rutting and it's a good time to be out there. But there's almost no reason to hunt. You can hunt mule deer in the rut with a rifle, elk in the rut with a rifle. Like, why would you bother learning how to bow hunt? So I get the argument because, and I take flack on this. Somebody wrote me like a 3-page email the other day to describe why he thought I was losing followers because I was disparaging rifle hunters. And it was well-meaning. Like he wasn't being an asshole about it, but he's like, I think you need to be careful with your language. I haven't actually gotten back to him yet. But I was trying to say is like, I prefer bow hunting. I don't give a fuck what you do. Exactly. I can tell you though, when I stand 40 yards from a bear and punch an arrow through both of his lungs, that feels nothing like standing 300 yards and dropping a 300 mag round into his shoulder. Like those are polar opposite experiences to me. And I've experienced both. I want the 40 yards and I want to double lung punch that guy with an arrow. Like it's just, and I don't want to take anything away from rifle guys. And I'll even give the long range guys their due. Like the more I find out about how complicated that is and how much time those guys spend loading rounds, like I totally understand why that would be a rewarding experience. But I'm not going to apologize for the fact that in my world, I prefer to hunt with a bow because it gives me a different experience than when I hunt with a rifle. And I just prefer that experience. But I'm interested, was it graduated? Like, did you go to a compound and then a trad, or was like a trad hunting in your family thing? Like, what was the path there?
So yeah, like, and I'm right there with you. My biggest complaint about the hunting world is everybody is got designations. Everybody is, right. You're a fucking bow hunter. You're a crossbow hunter. You're a trad bow hunter. You're a rifle hunter. There's so much. And then they break them out into, subgroups of Hoyt, Matthews, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, and I think the hunting community would be far, far better along if everybody would get rid of all that shit. And I'm just like you. Like, I hunt with a stick bow because I love to be fucking right there. Like, I like to be as close as possible. Does that take away? What's funny is it does not take away from my enjoyment of other hunting. Like, I'll pick up a compound and I'll shoot something. What's funny is I pick up a compound or even a rifle a lot of times and I get fucking like 20 yards. And I'm like, right. Well, it's just because that's how I normally hunt and I'm just used to it. And I just end up closer. I've done that. I've done it with a rifle. I've shot shit with a rifle from like 16 yards. And I'm like, that was awesome. You know, I still got that super adrenaline rush. Um, but so I've kind of got a different story. It's kind of weird because most people, like you say, they graduate. It's like, I was a rifle hunter, and then I moved to a compound, and then now I'm gonna move up to a stick bow. Well, I actually started out. I mean, I shot my first deer with I shot my first deer with a muzzleloader, an old school black powder, fucking mule kicking. What the hell? I thought my phone was on airplane mode. Anyway, so I shot my first deer with a muzzleloader, and not on purpose, mostly because I didn't kill with a rifle. So muzzleloader season was the next season, and I ended up shooting with the black powder open sights, the rod, and I mean the actual hammer, not a sabot. I don't know much about guns, so a lot of what I say is going to sound stupid, but that deer came in. It was actually a push. My dad pushed that deer towards me and he was just walking down this whitetail, little tiny buck came right into like 40 yards, and I shot him right in the heart. And I tell that story because that was like, holy shit, like this animal was right there. Like he's right there. I say 40 yards. He was probably closer. He was probably like 35 yards, 30 yards. I don't know. He was close. And my dad, he always hunted with a compound, old shitty compound, but no sights.
Okay.
He would shoot fingers, just a bare bow. So that's how I started bow hunting. Is when I was a kid, I just shot a bare compound bow, fingers, open sights. That's how I shot my first deer. And then after that, I was really into Fred Bear videos, and Fred Eichler was a big, like, he was kind of getting into Easton bow hunting. And my mom, I think she brought me home, like, I think she found Easton bow hunting at a fucking garage sale or something. And she brought that home to me, and I watched that. I destroyed that video. Like, I watched it over and over and over, and I was just like, this guy is hunting moose, then he's hunting, deer, and then he's elk hunting, then he's antelope. I mean, he's going everywhere. This is insane. Like, I didn't even know this was possible. So I think I was probably shooting a stick bow at that time. Like, we always had a recurve on the shelf. My dad had an old Bear recurve. I shot it a little bit, but between Fred Eichler and Fred Bear, after I shot my first deer with the compound, I just started shooting a recurve, and I always shot a compound as well. Like, I do it now and then. I think that was from Fred. He would shoot a couple animals with the compound every year, probably for sponsors.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
like you can't go out there shoot a Palmer handcrafted recurve and be sponsored by Hoyt.
Yeah.
Have him sponsor your show. So he would do that, and so that's how I did it. Like, I was just like, but 80 to 90% of my hunting was done with the recurve, and I struggled and finally started kind of getting some success, and that's just kind of how I've always done it. I've always shot. So it's funny because people are like, "Oh, I'm gonna sell my compound and just buy a stick bow," and I'm like, "Hey, you do what you want to do, but you don't have to. You don't have to get rid of that compound. You can do both."
That's so hilarious, man. Because it's just like when you were talking about drawing lines and labels, it is like people say I'm either a trad hunter or a compound shooter. And I never even realized it until, like, I've always said I don't want to buy a stick bow because I don't want to become a trad hunter. But I just realized there's no reason I couldn't buy one and just start practicing with it around the house. Yeah. And then maybe, do one hunt or two a year with it. Like, it doesn't have to be this like line in the sand that like now I'm a stick bow guy.
No. And I don't think it should be. To be honest, and I'm going to get some flack for this, but the trad bow community doesn't like me. It sounds shitty, but most of them, they're either in two camps. they're either in the fuck Jake Downs because he gets to hunt all over the place and he, whatever, like, must be nice, or it's the fuck Jake Downs, he doesn't like Aaron Snyder thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's one or the other, and whatever. I don't give a shit. I just try to tune all that shit out. The reason I hunt with a stick bow is because I enjoy being at 15 yards from an animal, and in from 25 and in, a stick bow is I'm way deadlier than with my compound because
I've
for
heard
one,
that.
I haven't hunted with it enough, but also you're upright. You've got to roll that cam over. I mean, it's not. I just had a turkey the other day that I could have easily killed with a compound or with a recurve. I had my compound. I couldn't raise up. Like I could have shot that fucker. I can almost shoot parallel with the ground, 6 inches off the ground. So for the way that I hunt, it's actually more advantageous. And people think, oh, you just want to be, stroking your ego and saying you're shooting stuff with a stick bow. No, all my stick bows are as high tech as possible. I shoot carbon arrows, the highest dollar. My stick bow costs more than most people's compound bows. Like it's not for nostalgia at all. It's for the way, the advantageous nature of it within the ranges I like to hunt in. I mean, and I don't think anybody should just, if you want to sell your compound and go all in because that's how your mind works, do it. But if you're on the fence, pick up a recurve, shoot some rabbits with it, shoot some fish with it, shoot some does with it. Just shoot in your yard. You'll love it. It's so much fucking fun. There's no stress in it. You miss. Everybody misses. Fuck, I miss. I just shot a fucking bear and lost it. I mean, it happens. Shit happens.
Yeah.
But no, yeah.
Don't Talk to me a little bit about your setup. Everybody's going to want to geek out on arrow weights, draw weights, and all that kind of stuff. So what's your bow and what's your arrow setup right now?
Yeah, I shoot a Bob Lee. It's called a Shikari. I actually had a little bit of a hand in the design. I mean, I'm friends with those guys over there. And what's funny is, so the riser is pretty similar. It's just a little that I don't like wood risers. I fucking had too many of them crack. I've had them delaminate on me right before hunts. I want the most durable riser. His risers are micarta. It's just a phenolic. And what I like about that is it's heavier. It's got a little bit of weight to it. And then the limbs, I actually had, you were mentioning Broderick from Day 6 the other day. He's a good friend of mine. And I was talking to him about this bow I wanted to design. And I was like, but, we want to do something with carbon on the limbs. He's like, no, got it. No problem. He fucking flew out a couple of times to Bob Lee's place and helped him with this. Cause he's, I don't know how much you guys got into his history, but he's been in the traditional world quite a bit. Yeah. He's designed bows. He's done all that shit. So he had a design. So the limbs were actually Broderick's designs, and they're the best limb I've ever shot. I mean, durable wise, they're way more durable than a glass limb. They're faster for one, but I'm not looking for speed. Okay. What I'm looking for is dead quiet and smooth. Like obviously I don't want to be shooting, Lincoln logs, but that limb is the quietest limb I've ever shot. It's super durable. I haven't been able to fuck one up, and I'm pretty hard on stuff. So that's the bow I shoot. And if you buy the Shikari, I told him, I said, I want this bow to be, and it's not like I'm sponsored by, I mean, they give me bows, it's a mutual deal, but 100% honest. If there was a better bow out there that I thought, in my opinion, because there's a lot of good bows, and it's very subjective, but if there was a better bow out there for me, I would be shooting 100%. But if you buy this bow, the Shikari is set up 100%. You get all the ads, you get the stable lock and all that stuff. So that's the bow I shoot. Arrow wise, I shoot a day 6, obviously. Trad bows are a little different than compounds. I'm terrible at tuning compounds, but a trad bow, you actually tune the arrow to the bow more than you tune the bow to the arrow, which
Okay.
I know you do that with a compound too, to a point. But um, my setup's it's a 350 shaft. I've got 250 grains up front. Um, I mean, a day 6 arrow. I don't know how familiar you are with
Well,
them.
funny thing is, are you running, first of all, before I forget, are you running the HD or the XD?
I've got the HD,
Okay.
and go ahead.
No, no, you go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say the reason for that is, for one, I'm a creature of habit,
Yep.
and two, it's kind of funny. I shoot split finger,
Yep.
and I like the feeling of that size of knock between my fingers. It's kind of
Yep.
fucking. It sounds stupid, but I've shot it for so long. Plus, the XD arrow, in my opinion, is a little more. I haven't shot the HD, or no, excuse me. The HD is what I shoot. The 244 is the one that the XD.
Yep.
And I haven't messed with that just because there's no reason to for me.
Yep. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah,
It's funny you mentioned weird reasons for making decisions. I shoot 4-fletch because I don't have to look for a knock vein.
Yep.
It's so like that extra half a second like makes a difference to me, and I can never put an arrow on wrong. So for the extra, whatever, 7 grains or whatever it is for a fletch, I'm like, there might be a bunch of other. Yes, it corrects quicker, and like the real reason I shoot 4-fletch is I never have to look for a knock vein, and it makes my life easier.
You know what? You say that. You know what's funny? I was a 4-fletch guy. Fucking, you could have. I would have told. I was the guy that's like, "What are you shooting three fletch for?" Like I was that guy. Like I really wouldn't have said that, but I was a 4-fletch guy up until about a year ago, and it started with my recurve. The 4-fletch, I just got way too much contact. I was, you got all those feathers or those fletchings. I shoot veins, but I went to 3-fletch, and my flight started shooting better.
Really?
And so what's funny is I was actually talking, and Broderick, he's a 4-fletch guy. He's a 4-fletch guy. Do you know Dakota that works with Broderick? Have you ever?
I don't know.
Okay, so he's like a mad scientist. Like if I have Broderick is a killer. Broderick's the killer, and he does have really good design stuff. He's got ideas for that, but Dakota is like the fucking mad scientist. Like he's the engineer. He's the guy, and he's a bow tuning fucking like. He's one of the smartest guys I've ever talked to about tuning a compound bow. And I said, dude, I'm shooting 3-fletch on my stick bow. I'm gonna try it on my compound. I said, does it fucking matter if you? And I shoot my compound just to kill. I said, does it really fucking matter if the cock vane is down or up? And he goes, no. He said no. So I said, if you are, and honestly, I started shooting 3-fletch just because out of my compound as well, and I noticed no difference.
Right.
And I don't even look. I don't look at. I just put it on, and I'm guessing. My opinion is, for me, it doesn't matter because, like, I'm a lung shooter. No matter what I'm shooting with, I'm gonna hit. I'm not gonna win any fucking tournaments. If I'm guessing, the more finite your shooting is, the better you are. Maybe you notice that difference. But maybe you don't. I think a lot of people especially with both, compound recurve doesn't matter. They get too worried about the details that they can't their ability isn't, even human ability isn't good. I mean, I've heard of people bitching about these broadheads were 3 grains off. And I'm like, 3 grains?
Yeah.
Fuck, you wouldn't notice if there were 25 grains off. What are you talking about? Like,
the whole reason I was using the cock vein, I was getting contact, and it was with one of my older compounds, and it had to be on there in the right orientation, or I'd get contact on flight. But I was thinking the other day how much extra money I've spent on .001 straightness arrows, and it's like, who the fuck do you think you are Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You Levi Morgan motherfucker? You're not.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and the other thing that I think people spend so much time, I think the quality of manufacturing processes and how well they're making everything takes a lot of the arguments that used to be valid 10 or 15 years ago
Yeah.
in all kinds of product categories
Yep.
out the window. Like,
Yep.
I think if you're shooting a premium arrow, I honestly don't believe that for 99% of shooters you need to spine knock
No.
or spine tune anything anymore. Like, if you are hitting a dinner plate at 60, like a small dinner plate at 60, that's what. Also, I believe in if you're a hunter, then practice for hunting.
Yeah.
Don't practice for target. I'm not saying there's not benefit to go shoot a 3D, or if you want to shoot a league to stay fresh during the winter, I think that's great. But all of my practice is about making me a better hunter. I want to take that soft paw to dinner size group and get it out as far as possible. I'm not worried about how many X's I've got it on a Vegas face at 20, for example, you know?
It's funny. I won't even shoot a dot target. I won't even
Right.
fucking shoot one. I shoot all 3Ds, and with my stick bow, I pretty much strictly shoot broadheads, which is fucking expensive because those targets don't last very long, especially
No.
which is I
And
do.
you start nicking arrows, you go through those pretty quick too.
I told you I'm not sponsored by anybody. I'm not, but man, I would fucking jump all over a 3D sponsorship, right? Like if someone's like, I will give you all the 3Ds you want, I'd fucking be like, yeah, I'll sell you, I'll but I'll sell out like a mother for that. But yeah, it's 100%. And I try to shoot, kneeling, leaning, through some stuff. And that's one reason I do like some 3D shoots is
Yes.
like we have one in a couple weeks that we put on, and we put animals down steep slopes and through trees. Not crazy long shots. I mean, even with a compound, you're probably no more than 50 yards of distance, but it's a super hard. There's some super hard windows you got to sneak through. Like, I think that kind of practice is fucking almost hard. Like, I don't know how, if you can get to a 3D shoot like that and do some of that stuff, I think that's super advantageous. And I'm not, again, like you, this is what works for me. If shooting dots makes you fucking slay animals, rock and roll. Like, I think you should do what works for you. And if knock tuning and doing some of the stuff that is well above and beyond your ability gives you the confidence to shoot better, sometimes it's your mind, dude. Like, and
Yes.
you just like,
yeah, that's a big one. And I will agree. Even if it doesn't have a functional impact on your performance, but it makes you feel more confidence, that I'm going to say go ahead and do it.
confidence kills, man.
100%.
Confidence is the main thing that it gets you through any part of hunting, through the brutal parts of hunting. If you're confident, it's a game changer for you, for sure. So any of that shit that you can do to gain confidence, for sure, do it.
I want to, dude, we could go on all day, and we got to do another one on gear soon. But before we wrap up, I got to hear about New Zealand, because I'm not big into international hunting. I have no desire to go to Africa. Again, like all the other stuff we've discussed, if that's what you're into, fill your boots. I will support you and help you keep stuff legal and 100%. It just doesn't get me excited. And the only other place, New Zealand, and some of those crazy sheep hands in like the Tajikistans and like that, I can kind of see getting behind because those look pretty fucking crazy. But New Zealand is really the only other place in the world I would be interested in going hunting other than North America. And when I saw you just got back from there, I gotta hear a little bit about that trip.
Yeah, dude. Like New Zealand, what's funny is I was with you probably 10 years ago. I was like, Africa, whatever. There's lots of stuff here. But over the years, what's funny is I will fucking, like, someone calls us and says, hey, let's go rabbit hunting, in fucking Kansas or something. I'm like, well, I got time. Like, I'm a guy that will go sit on a fucking stand and shoot deer over corn, and then the next 2 weeks later I'm hunting sheep in Northwest Territories. So I'm like, I will, any hunting I can do, I will do. So then, like, I was like, well, now that I've got a little more financial stuff, I'm like, well, it'd be fun to kind of go places and take my
Yeah.
wife, like international. She kind of wants to travel and see some shit. So, um, we went to Africa and that was fun. What I liked about Africa is it's just target rich environment.
Right.
You're getting reps. Like, it's not hard hunting. You shoot a bunch of shit and you give it to the skinners and like, all right, we're going to dinner. I mean, it's not like, but it's still a lot of fun. And you still get, there is a big benefit to just shooting some shit. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, just getting the bugs out of making the shot, drawing, knowing when to draw, all that shit. So anyway, but New Zealand is like Africa in that there's a lot of game, depending on the way you do it. I mean, I went with an outfitter. I was going to go. I got invited from a buddy or a guy that was just on social media. He's like, "Hey, come out, you can hunt. I'll take you." And then I kind of started feeling bad about it. It's
Right.
like I'm just like glomming on this guy's hunt. Um, and then just about the time I started feeling bad about it, a friend of mine posted a friend of his that's an outfitter, and he's actually from Alaska, and he was going over there to guide. He's from New Zealand, but he lives in Alaska, and he's a sheep guide.
Okay.
I was like, whoa, fuck. I mean, this kind of worked out. So anyway, I ended up going with them. But what I liked about New Zealand was it is a mountain hunt. Like, it
Right.
is, you get both best of both worlds, and you can experience it however you want. Like, the way I did it was a little more catered to, I guess. Like, as far as like the lodge, I mean, I asked him. I said, "Do you want me to bring my backpacking stuff?" And he's like, "No, dude, we're gonna drive back to the lodge." Like, he said, it's only 30 minutes from the ranch, and when I say ranch, it's like it's just fucking mountains. Like, you can't even
Right.
believe it. It's just mountains upon mountains. I think the one we were on was like 30 or 35,000 acres. And then they have another couple. I don't know. They have places all over the place. Not high fence, all low fence, just animals fucking, you know, the amount of animals that live there is insane. And you would think like, okay, well, the deer and the red deer and the whatever are going to be down in the lower ends, and then you're going to climb all the way to the tar. Fuck no. You'll see a tar, not as many, but you'll see a tar like on the river, and then you'll see a fucking red stag on the top of the mountain. We found wallows at the top of the mountain. Like, it was like,
Jesus.
fuck. But so you got a lot of opportunities, good for a bow hunter. And then the animals, for not having predators, they don't fuck around. Like,
No. I,
they don't stand there and look at you. I don't know why. Probably, well, I do know why. They hunt them. They hunt them 365,
right.
and fucking hunt them out of helicopters and all sorts of shit. So, but what I liked about it, you got the mountain hunt. It was cool because I was able to take my wife. She went and she had a friend go with her, a girlfriend went with her, and they went and did the sightseeing and the traveling all over. And then she came and stayed at the lodge. So she got to experience, what she wanted to do. I got to hunt. And the mountains there they kind of remind me of Alaska because, you're climbing from basically the valley floor up. It's not, the stuff that we were in wasn't crazy technical. Like,
Right.
it wasn't super cliffy. I mean, there were some spots, but we never got into anything that made me nervous or whatever. Like, I'm kind of a pussy with heights. Like, I say that, but I mean, I've climbed up some shit that I probably shouldn't have. But yeah, I mean, it was just a very, it was just really right up my alley. You got to see a lot of animals. You got to make a lot of stocks. You got to to get to those animals was very physical. You were, making a stock, fucking that up, making another stock, up, down, and the terrain was pretty conducive to hunting with a bow because it was fairly open, but there was enough topography and like you think that this hillside is barren, but it's just fucking shrubbery up to here, up to
Right.
your head. Um, I honestly, to this point, it's probably if gun to my head, like I said, I never want to say this is my favorite hunt, this is my favorite animal, this is whatever. But gun to my head, I would probably say that was probably my favorite place that I've ever been to. Plus, no snakes.
That's
So
a big selling point, man.
big selling
Yeah.
point for me. But
That's
nah, dude.
awesome, dude. Yeah, it's 100% on my list. Also, I'm always interested in places and hunts that fall outside our regular seasons because, like, nobody wants to give up elk season. I don't want to give up sheep season, but to be able to go there in the spring or in some other time when there's not some other, competitive opportunities here back at home, it's 100% on my to-do list.
You would love it, dude. And when you get over there, it's fucking fall. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like you get that fall feeling. You're like, wow, this is great. So no, I'm actually going back in May. I'm gonna go back
Awesome.
and do chamois. I want to do chamois. That's high on my list. So I'm gonna go back and do chamois and maybe take a couple guys that want to shoot some tar or whatever else. So
Yeah.
yeah, if you want to go, just let me know. We're gonna put a little group together. And even if you decide you want to go at another time, just fucking hit me up. I got some connections for you.
I will. Well, I'll reach out after that and get some information because yeah, I'm definitely curious. Well, listen, man, I know we both got stuff to do, so let's wrap this up. We'll link up for a round two because we didn't even really get into your hunt plans for this year, and it'd be cool to do a bit of a deep dive on some gear stuff. But I want to thank you for what you do for the hunting industry, man. You and I both know that it is full of pieces of shit who are just trying to make a buck, shilling garbage fucking product for shit companies. And I feel like we're trending upwards. Some people say I get some of the credit. I don't really care if I had an impact on that. I'm happy to do it. But I see more and more people placing integrity before free product. And I don't know if that's what these guys understand, but that's what you're doing. You're selling your integrity for a paycheck when you recommend garbage product to the people at home. And having guys like you, legit killers who aren't interested in getting a paycheck from hunting. And that was my thing. Like, I wish more people understood that. Like when I started doing what I do, I was like, I don't need your fucking money. I don't need your fucking product either. I'm going to buy whatever the fuck I want. I just did and I know I'm going to ruffle some feathers with this one, but I just did this insole review and somebody asked me about Lathrop and Sons and they threatened to fucking sue me. One of the episode 11 of my podcast, I did Schnee's Beartooth versus Lathrop and Sons. I dumped over $2,000 on boots between those two pairs of boots. I have Morton's Aroma in my right foot. I've got multiple surgeries, stem cells, cryoablation, all kinds of shit. I went through their whole custom fit boot process, custom insoles, $1,200 for one pair of boots, and they were fucking trash. They destroyed my feet. I sent them back. They said they did something. They didn't do anything. They sent them back. They trashed my feet again. And I remember that my phone rang and it was like one of the brothers. He was kind of pissed, but he was like nice enough. And I'm like, listen, man, if you want to try it again, I'll try it again. Like if you want to walk through the whole, like if you think something went wrong on your end, I'll give you another kick at the can. And he's like, yeah, okay, let us think about it. And the other brother phoned back. He was fucking super choked. And he starts screaming at me, we're going to fucking sue you, this and that. And I'm like, you understand it's a product review on YouTube, bro. Like, what are you going to sue me for? I bought your product cash. I'm not defaming you as an individual. I am saying that the way you created your product does not align with what I'm looking for in a product. But I realized the other day that was the turning moment for me. I'm like, these sons of bitches are so used to just giving people stuff and have everybody suck their dicks that it's like when somebody actually starts saying like real, honest, feedback about gear and they don't need your money and they don't need your free product. And I do see, anyways, I went on a big rant, but I'm more optimistic now than I've been. I know there's more product. I know there's more marketing dollars than ever, but I do feel like there's an upswelling of people who are like, we're sick of this shit. We want honest feedback with integrity about the products. And I feel like there's more people out there doing that these days. So I want to thank you for the part you're playing in that, because it's important shit, man. Some of these dudes, it's all they got, man. You know what I mean? And they're working their ass off all fucking year for one hunt, and they're trying to figure out what boots to buy. And it's like some dude's getting a paycheck and they're getting a pair of shitty boots, and it fucking kills me.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I'm right there with you, and I appreciate what you're doing. Yeah, we're like-minded, dude. We'll do this again for sure. Anytime you want to chat gear, fuck. That's the funny thing. Nobody ever asked me about gear because everybody wants to talk about stick bow, but
Yeah.
I'm down to I'd like to pick your brain about a few things. So yeah, let's, whenever, dude.
Yeah. We'll line up round 2 here in the near future. All right, brother. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
You too, man.
Cheers.